Hi everybody, welcome to the second edition of Paint with Rochelle. I'm Rochelle Walden. This is my little studio here in Seattle, Washington. I'm a portrait artist and other things. And I'm offering this free series of painting classes to help people deal with stress in stressful times and to learn a new skill. And I hope that you can join me for this continuing series, which I hope to be every 2 weeks. So let's get right to it. Today we're going to be doing a beautiful winter cityscape. And I so admire those sorts of pictures because of the different shadows that are cast on wet streets and the lights twinkling. And here, I'll just get right to it and I'll show you our reference photos. This one on the right that you're seeing, this is a photo that's a little blurry, but a little clearer of our reference, and you can see there's perspective going on here, looking into the road, into the distance, and there's some just brilliant colors. They kind of remind me of a Starry Night kind of vibe, with the bright white to yellow to orange, and then this gorgeous blue in the sky. Over to the left side is a blurrier version of the picture, and I'll tell you why we're going to do that. I have found that it helps to see blocks of color, see areas of color. If you sort of squint your eyes, this is like if I'm squinting my eyes, or I don't have my glasses on, which is kind of a convenient thing I do sometimes when I'm painting. So I can see areas of color better, as opposed to trying to get into all those little details and get all crazy in there and paint stuff that isn't in the long run going to tell the best story with your painting. And that's what this is about. This is a feeling you're trying to get with a painting, not necessarily every single last detail. So let's go to my overhead camera here. We're going to be using a 10 by 10 canvas today that I've got right here. And you know, I have a kind of a motley selection of brushes. For this painting, you're going to need kind of maybe bigger brushes where you can get into some of that background and the trees, and you know, even dog-eared is not bad because the trees are kind of rough, and there's a way you can kind of go after them with these bigger dog-eared brushes that you can get some of that texture. You're also going to need some littler detail brushes. Round brushes are the ones that come to a fine tip point at the end. This is called a script liner. I don't know if you can see how long these bristles are, and sometimes those are good for drawing out long little details like we do have in the picture with, you know, some of these lines, some of these small lines, vertical lines. Then I have just some basic other medium-sized brushes where we're going to get areas of color. And you don't have to have specific brushes to do great work. You just want a little range of sizes, from very, very thin to a bigger one where you can get larger areas of color down. Okay? So I also have a pencil with me today because I'm gonna illustrate how you can approach this perspective so that it's believable. Believability is a huge part of having a successful painting. Believability. It doesn't have to be exact, but believable, yes. Okay, so I'm going to move this for a second and show you my wet palette. I have a wet palette already started. If you weren't here and saw my video last week, go back and have a look at that where we're painting tomatoes. And this wet palette is from Masterson. I use it because it keeps my paints wet, and so you can see this is my palette from the tomatoes last week. So it has a wet sponge under here that is just lightly wet. The paper is also wet before you put it in here, and it's a kind of a heavy paper that doesn't fall apart when it's wet, and it holds on to some of this moisture. So I have about a 12 color range going here. From white, you don't have to set it up in this direction, but just put it around the edges so that I'll have space to mix in the middle, which I do mix colors on the go just all the time. So white, I've got two kinds of yellow here because see in our reference picture, There's a beautiful super bright yellow, and then there's some great darker sort of sunflower yellows fading into oranges. There's some great reds in there. This is kind of a brick red. I see a little bit of that too. A little bit of green, not too much. We're going into this beautiful blue here into the sky and back. Wow, look at the contrast that's going to be with orange. That's just going to, and yellow. Boy, that's going to make our painting look fantastic. And then I've got, going around here, I have some purple and brown and then black. Usually in paintings, I don't use a lot of black, but in this painting, we're going to, because it's a very blurry, dark, there's some very blurry, dark areas that I want to get. Okay, so that's my wet palette, and I'm going to move that to the side, and then we're going to get started painting. Got our reference photo up here. One of the only other tools, I'll show you, I've got my water glass, of course. That's going to be one of my important tools. I've got an old towel. That's an important tool because when you dip in water, if you're a beginning painter, you may not know that your paintbrush will pick up a lot of water, and if you slop that right onto your, you'll get your paints too wet if you slop it right onto your canvas, and then it'll frustrate you because it won't dry as fast. A great deal of what makes painting with acrylics fun is that it dries out fast enough that you can go over it in a pretty relative amount of time. So I've got my water glass, I've got my towel, I've got my wet palette, and then one more thing I've got that's really important is I've got my phone, because my phone, and there's my kitties, oh, aren't they cute? My phone is going to be my reference picture. I can't see the one on the screen quite as well as you can. And so I can see this one close up. Also, the reference picture I want to point out is going to be, this is going to be down in the description of this YouTube video, where you can get this reference photo and download it to your phone or your laptop, or you can even print it out if you have a color printer at home, whatever easiest for you when you're painting. For me, I'm going to need to see this up a little bit closer, and then I can kind of zero in on certain parts of it too. So that's helpful for me to have my phone. And I set the settings there so that my screen will stay on for 10 minutes. That works great for me. Okay, so let's get started here. I've got my pencil somewhere. Where did I put it? There it is. Whoops. All right, you get your canvas here. Let me make sure it's nice and centered for you guys. I've got my phone nearby, but I'm going to have a look at this basic layout. So we've got perspective going on here, and there are some great mathematical rules to learn with perspective that are really fun, but we don't have to know those for this kind of painting because it's so fuzzy, okay? So we're going to look to where the lights go back to about to here. And we're going to say this is kind of we're going to call this our horizon line for now. And the reason it's important to kind of know where your horizon line is in a painting like this is because then we're going to be able to figure out kind of how this, since they don't follow parallel lines, the street is not parallel, we're going to be able to figure out how to get the street in here in a believable fashion. Not a perfect fashion, but a believable fashion. So see, I've got some lines here, if you can see those, for my, kind of where my road is in regards to the horizon line. I also see that I want to kind of have this sidewalk, if you can imagine where the buildings meet the sidewalk, is kind of like this maybe. My people being right here, okay? And then I'm going to put in a little light line up here. This is kind of where my building comes out to. Kind of goes up like that. You see that? And then let's see, the other horizon lines I need are, I'm just going to lightly sketch in where some of these trees are going to be. They're going to go up and off my canvas. This helps to give me kind of a basis, like for remembering what I'm doing and how I'm going about it, okay? And they get a little closer and a little smaller as they go into the distance. Such a neat effect. We'll just kind of let that disappear for now. We don't have to draw in all of these bits and pieces of everything. We just kind of want to generally know where some things are going to be. There's kind of an overhang right here. Okay, so I've got a general idea of where my painting's going to start. So let's get on into it. Right off the bat, I want to try to get the background. The background here is this lovely blue color. So I'm going to get right into that. It's just such a good color. I'm going to darken my blue a little bit with a slightly darker blue. I just want the richness of that color. And if you put down something that's a little bit too dark, or you feel, don't worry about it too much. Just go with what your best guess is on this, okay? I'm a big fan of mixing paint on the canvas while I'm painting, so I go in with a little, I don't get my brush too saturated with paint. I go in and then I can easily lighten or darken whatever I want to do. Now I know that this goes into trees over here, but some of this blue shines through these trees. So I'm going to be painting the blue in to more of the background than it actually will end up in the end, okay? I'm going to create that basis for a background. Over here, this nice building, which I think is just such a beautiful part of this. Let's see, I don't know if I have that in the right spot. I think I put my tree in the wrong spot, so I'll change it. This beautiful building is up here. I'm gonna just kind of rough that in because I definitely want that to be part of my painting, and I don't want to cover it up. I can always uncover it if I did cover it up and I was like, oh no, I forgot my building. That's the great thing about acrylic, is it dries so fast. If you don't put it on too wetly, too thickly. Kind of just get a sense of where that background is, and then it just kind of fades out down here. It's going to turn into city down here. It's so gratifying to get just a bunch of color down right off the bat, isn't it? I think a lot of people stop themselves from painting because they start in with their painting getting way too worried and detailed right off the bat, and then they get dismayed, like, oh no, I've done it wrong. Here I am, I've done it wrong, and now it's all over. It's never all over. I mean, the whole fun of it is that it's never all over. So here you can see I'm using a big brush. I'm going to be adding some details to this, but what you want to see is blocks of color, areas of color. You want to see predominant color, like here I'm changing where I wanted that building to go just a little bit. You can see I'm blending on there. That's no problem because I'll be able to cover that up as I paint. There's going to be some orange windows in here, so I'm going to get that down. While I have orange on my brush, I'm going to grab some of these great colors. Now see, when I had sketched in this line of my street, that's really helpful for me because then it kind of reminds me where my building might be ending. There's some reddish, fading to reddish over here. This is a little oranger and more red than I thought. I just love that. My tree, I think, is going to cover a part of this building. But I'm looking like beyond the trees, and I'm seeing some oranges in here, and I'm seeing a lot of orange here and there. And because this doesn't have to be exactly right, you're just you're just getting areas of color in now, and you're gonna be layering colors, okay? So trust me in the process that you don't have to know, there's not only one way to do a thing, especially not this kind of thing. Okay, so we've got some orange in there. Since I'm in my orange area mode, I'm going to grab some of these oranges and reds over here. And then up here in the building, there's some lovely oranges and reds. Again, see how I'm not being specific as to what I'm doing with the color? There's no need to at this point. It's a blending process. Oh, I just love these super saturated colors. Grabbing, I'm going to get into some of that yellow. It's just so lovely. Look at that. And I'm going to imagine that I'm going to go behind these people. So we're painting, you know, we can kind of see into the background. We're not really sure where everything ends and everything. And that's the thing about a painting like this, a cityscape, it just fades into the background. So no problem if you have it in slightly the wrong places. Don't worry about any of that. Not at this juncture. Don't worry about any of that. Just look for all the places in your painting where these colors exist. There's some lovely yellows down here. And then the brightest areas of our painting, that's what's going to make it really stand out. And a lot of that doesn't get painted until the end. But this lovely white area in here is going to be really important. And these lights that are going back into the distance are going to be really important. They're coming out at roughly the same angle that this street is coming down. See, and then they meet somewhere back into that place where we don't know. We can't see that far. We know it's there, but we can't see that far. I'm going to add a little white even to my yellow to make it even lighter. It's just so delicious. These colors that come down here are going to be, they're reflections of things that are happening up above. And so once we kind of get this dialed in, that's what we're going to be doing, is making sure that we have that our shadows down below are reflecting something that has happened above. And so even if I am wrong in my position of, say, that yellow color right there, it's when it's reflected here down below, it's right. It's not wrong anymore. If you say it's right, it's right. So long as you tell that believable story, right? All right, let's see. I know I have some dark areas in here, but I'm gonna try to bring some of the colors closer in, these lightish orangish colors, and make sure I have enough of this in here. I can always go back and add it, but it just helps to tell the story to me. It helps to remind me where I am as I'm going through. If I have some, it's like you're leaving a trail of breadcrumbs for yourself almost as you're painting. Grab a little white here. See this line up here that goes up here? This is also helping to tell a perspective story. So I'm kind of reminding myself as I'm going through that there's this important line here. And I want to just mark in sort of where this lamppost is going to be roughly. Even though my paint is still too wet to really work on that, I just want to remind myself where it is a little bit. And then the second lamppost is going to be about maybe here. It's so much smaller as it fades into the distance. And then they go smaller, smaller like that. All right. So we've got some messy, great color. Now, these trees are black, but they look also a little purple to me. So I'm going to start getting these established where they are. I had moved my house or building back here, wherever, and I want to again get a sense of what is the scale of this tree here. The lights on it, I'm going to be putting on once the tree is dry. So that's a really good reason to not over wet your paints. Tap it off on the towel. My towels get so messy. Luckily, I get a lot of towels from my husband's work that they would throw out anyway. He works, he's a surgical assistant, works in surgery, and they have towels that they just can't use after cases because the pack was opened and they can't reuse that. So I get these amazing towels from his work, and we put them to use and recycle them, and I don't feel bad about getting paint on them. I use them a million times and then off they go to the world. Look at how much perspective already. Just having that tree there helps to start telling a story of my picture. I am going to put the edge of the tree in here. I'm going to bring it out a little further even than it is, just because I kind of like the way that it frames my picture. I wasn't sure if I was going to add that tree in front, but I'm going to. I think it's going to help tell the story. All right, so then we look, how far is this tree and the next tree apart, really? We'll figure out where this ends and how it ends in a minute. It's not going to be as thick as this tree because it's further away. It's hard to say how that actually ends there because it fades into some other darker areas along here, tree-y areas. And then I'm going to put in maybe that third tree, which is so much thinner. That's right back here, maybe. Now, would somebody know if your tree curves slightly this way or slightly that way? No, they would not. They would not be aware of that. But they would be, because these get thicker and bigger, and as they come closer to us, we have just told a really important part of this story, this landscape story. And I'm still just using my giant brush, right? The more you can paint with a bigger brush and do bloppy areas of paint, the more appealing that painting's going to be, I promise you. Now remember how I said there's going to be shadows down here that will play off of the shadows which are up here. Well, that's what's happening. It's not exact. These two trees, the shadow kind of blends together. It's not an exact science, but it does kind of work out as we do more and more of these shadows. You'll see that that's the part that really makes the painting. These people walking in this painting and their little legs and how their little body shadow comes out. Oh boy, that really, you're gonna love that part. That's just really gorgeous. just kind of, there's like a trash can or something there. I think I'm gonna put in this, it's kind of an overhang. It angles slightly up. And you're just using the edge, just a little edge of my brush here. There's some kind of shadow created by some part of the building. I don't really know what it is. It doesn't really matter. People's eyes just kind of work it out. If you have some of these key perspective lines, here's another one. I don't know what this is. It's some kind of shadow from something, but it helps tell a perspective line story. It helps to tell the story. And this goes up here. And then remember, I was messing around with this line up here. I have it in slightly the wrong place, but I'm going to call it there. Vertical lines are so key. Watch how the directions of lines change from up to this way. It's a spiral. See how that's happening? So when I sketch in some of these lines over here, they're not parallel to each other. They're not even kind of close to parallel. And that's really important because that shows that it's going into the distance, right? This is just tree, I think, back here. Some of this darkness. I see my blue is not completely dry, but it's pretty dry. And so I'm going to start messing with this, and it comes all the way down to the awning. And I'm going to start pretending I know what's going on here. One of these days I'm going to have a cat cam to a third camera that's trained on my cat that's on the top of my desk here, who is currently taking a bath. If you hear licking sounds, it's not me. It's Junebug. As it gets further and further in the perceived distance, it's more and more dark. And then I'm letting some of this blue shine through, because that was, remember, that's why we painted blue in the back. That's going to be so important to how everything kind of works out. Now I can kind of look, did I put those lamps in the right area? This is the lamp hole right here, so I'm slightly off over here, so I'll just erase that. They're going to be more like here and here, those lamps. It's all this kind of delicious guessing game. I'm going to get a little blue on my brush because I don't want this to be so black that it kind of ruins the effect of the sky showing through. Maybe a little purple as well. Still dark. All right. Oh, it's really getting awesome. Okay, off of this awning right here, if you can see, I'm going to get a smaller brush because I just don't want to be too heavy-handed with that. It's not quite as black as the other area, so I'm going to mix a little bit of orange into my black. There's this nice area here that tells part of the perspective story. Again, I know I keep saying the story, but that's what paintings really are. They're really a story that you're telling yourself and somebody else. And it kind of has, you can kind of see that it's going into the background. So I'll put that area of color in there. In and of itself, it doesn't make much sense, but it starts to make sense. It begins to make sense as we add more and more layers of color. Now, I see some purples in here that I actually didn't really see before. If you go way in on your picture there, let's see. See in here? Boy, that's just straight up purple. I'm gonna mix it with a little bit of white, so it's not too dark purple. And I'm gonna start getting some of these purple colors. Boy, that's really neat. I didn't realize it was purple when I started this, but now I see it. God, it totally is. I need a little bit lighter. As it fades into the background, it seems like it's getting a little bit lighter as well. A little bit of red into my purple. Has a pinkish purplish look to it. I may have lost count on my trees. What's going on where? It's my, okay, so this is 1, 2, 3, lamppost, 4. Okay, I was right. It's funny. A little bit more purple there, tiny bit there. There's some purple down in these lights on the trees too. That's really interesting. That adds another level of dynamic that I didn't realize was there. I knew I loved this picture though, because I've always been so enchanted with the evening look of Starry Night and how the lights shine out from the cafe. And I know that I'm not the only one that's intrigued by that. It's a pretty famous painting. It's just gorgeous. It's just gorgeous. It just, you're like, I want to live there. I want to know what it's like to live there. Now I didn't expect to be doing it at this stage, but I'm putting in some of these purplish lights because I realized that some of this is, there's a purple glow around the trees that I did not really realize was there. Fun. I love making discoveries as you go along, and in fact, with my portrait work, it's amazing to me how I can go in. I'm like, oh yeah, I know what I'm doing here, and then I just get so surprised at the stuff that I discover once I'm in there. It's just crazy. Like, how did I not see that last time? You know, what happens is I think we set our minds to concentrating on a certain area or certain colors, and then our mind sees all of that color. If I'm concentrating on the blue in there, for example, then my mind sees all the blue, and I just totally get into that during a painting session. But then when I come back later, maybe, you know, it has, I get my mind set on oranges, and then I see all of the ways that orange is happening in that photo, and then I just totally get into that. And somehow to get together, it all kind of comes together in the end. And I'm always surprised, both that it comes together and how it comes together. I'm always surprised about it. That's some neat color stuff in here. Let's get a little something lighter. Almost has a little bit of orange in it too. I want to leave this very strokey, blobs of color. Think blobs of color. Don't think, oh, I gotta get that just right, because it's blurry for one thing. You're not gonna be able to get it just right. You really can't tell exactly what's going on. That's a feature. That's a good thing. Let's get the glow around this tree. It's really interesting. Wow, cool. Is there any more purple in here? I'm gonna look for purple. Now I've got my mindset on purple, as you know. Now I have to go look for other purple, and I see some. There's going to be some purple in here, just the barest amount though, around the person we're going to draw in. I might wait to put it in there though, because I want to really get that white really light, and the purple, it'll take more drying time if I put it in right now, so I'm going to wait on that. But I know it's there. I've marked it. How about other purple? Boy, there's some neat colors in here. Get a little orange in on that. I don't know, I think that's like maybe lights up in the tree here. Not sure. So I'm going to be just blobby about it. Now I think I'm gonna go back to this great reddish orange building, which I think is so key for us in this painting. If you haven't rinsed your brush very well like I just did, you can rinse it off and then pick up some of that color right away. I go from one thing to the other so fast that it's like I can't be bothered to rinse my brush well sometimes. So, okay, I want to get in here and tell this story. Now I'm going to cover up this where I moved it. Remember, I moved it, and I want to cover that up a little bit. I just need a peek in here. It needs to be a little bit redder, maybe. It's glowy, so it's like it's a yellowy reddy color, just orange, I guess. I'm gonna go in with my black, bring the building out over here a little bit. To get a more vibrant orange, if you're not getting a glowy enough orange, which is what I was feeling, you can experiment with mixing some of your yellow into it and see, you'll know when you start to see it right. And this is, I think, one of the things that makes painting so soothing, is that while you're here trying to think about color, and really it takes up all your bandwidth, because it takes your concentration to think about what is that color and what is that color, and does that work, does that make sense? When you're thinking about that, you can't be thinking about the state of the world. I mean, you're happy to let it go. At least I am. I'm happy to let it go for a while. I can't fix the world by worrying more. I can fix it by being a higher vibration myself. I can help fix it, and I can help show up places that I need to show up and be the kind of person I need to be if I am centered and calm. I can help the world that way a lot, and so can you. I'm inspired by some of these lines. I'm going to go back, and I saw an important line for our story. The street goes down here, right? And there's kind of a sort of, this is sidewalk, this yellow sidewalk, but then this building is on a different street. And so there's a line that comes kind of like that. I got that in the right place, roughly. And I'm gonna get a smaller brush for my darker color now, because I want to get in here and kind of, even though I don't want to be too fussy with it, I still want to be make sure I'm getting the essence of this building in. I think this building in the background is so key to what's going on. Now there's some dark lines in this building, but they're not near as dark as the black, and that's important. This black here, I mean the black in the trees, because this is closer to us. This is foreground. So the building is going to be, this almost looks like a green. It's a greenish orangish. And there's stuff going on here. There's a sign here in front of the building. I'm going to probably ignore that sign because I don't think I could, well, I could put it in, but just make it, you know, not put the writing and stuff on it. But there's some stuff going on in the building that helps to show that this is, you know, there's underneath an eave maybe of the top here. So we need a little bit of detail without going too crazy on it, because we really don't know what this is. Like I said, it's super blurry. We don't really know, and neither does the person looking at this photo. Down below, these are probably going to be some windows. It's probably what we're looking at. When your paint is all wet here, but you're still going kind of in on it with another color, that's called alla prima. And you know, that's why a lot of people get into oil painting, actually, because their paint will stay wet, and they can kind of monkey with it, and there's some really great effects you can create, and blending you can create with alla prima type painting. But while your paint is wet on the canvas, with acrylic you can do the same thing. Yeah, you're painting, you're blending as you're going, so it's nice because it's if you want a little bit less distinct thing to happen, there you go. This is your opportunity for that. Some of those shapes. Start noticing subtleties everywhere when you're really concentrating on an area. Now, if you watched my last video, I cautioned you about moving around your painting. So, because what we'll do is we'll get all into one area, we'll get stuck in an area, and it'll start to frustrate us sometimes, and it's really not helpful if I work on this area a little bit and I leave it. That's going to be, believe it or not, way better for my painting than if I had stayed and made it perfect. Because you see things, your eye is most attuned to seeing things when you first come upon an area. So the longer when I'm doing my portrait work, the longer that I look at my portrait and concentrate super, super hard on my portrait, past the point of kind of fatigue, brain fatigue, the more likely I am to start making bad decisions, start sort of overworking things. Overworking is something that you don't want to do, because it's just not as appealing as getting kind of sketchy areas and very artsy areas. Overworking is not as great as not overworking. Well, there you have it. Don't overwork. That's neat, those windows up there. Wow. Okay, I just took a step back because I'm just all up in my business. Take a step back from your painting every once in a while. Even right there, without my people in there, without even finishing this off, you can tell what's happening here. You can tell that there's a road going this way. You can tell there's perspective happening. Isn't that delightful? Isn't it just so fun to take a step back and then that really that's what I'm talking about when I'm saying look at different parts of your painting, take a step back, sit back, squint at it, leave the room, get a cup of coffee, get a cup of wine or a glass of wine, and then come back and you won't believe what you'll see. You just won't believe it. Okay, there's a bit of blue on there. Catch, I don't know what it is, but I like it. Doesn't matter what it is. I'm just so taken with how some of this blue shines through the trees. Such a gorgeous nighttime view of a city, isn't it? I got this this picture on an online free site where photographers share their work called Pexels. I believe it's P-E-X-E-L-S. I'm not the world's best speller, so I would have to double check that. But that's if you're looking for reference photos, first I would always go to your own reference photos. Those are always going to be the best, and they're something that you own and you don't have to be kind of careful of. But then you can look for sites like Pexels where you can find neat images to paint, but they're free, and you're allowed to use them. You can thank the photographer. And I unfortunately forgot to download the name of the photographer on this. I'm going to go back and try to find the name of the photographer, because this is really, I think, just such a lovely image for of a starry night kind of variety. I see some lighter areas in this blue that I wanted to pick up. I'm just sort of blending it in. I think it's interesting. The sky where it goes back towards the buildings, back towards the trees, a little bit darker, and then in the middle it's a little bit lighter. And that just probably because of the blendiness of it all, it just fades. Got a little rambunctious with my roof there. It's dark. That's neat. Buildings in the distance. I see a little bit of cute, sort of a greenish, some top of a building and something in here. And there's maybe, who knows what that is? It's hard to say. Trash can. Behind the tree there. Now I see, so I've got a little bit green on my brush. Is there anywhere else that I can pick up a little bit of green? I don't see any. I'm going to mix some orange into that green, because I do see some kind of areas back in here that need a little handling that are strange colors. I'm not sure what this is. It's side of a building, maybe. It's hard to say, but it's behind the tree. And it's over on the side of this building somewhere. I'm going to get some of these darker colors. Pretty. All right, on my road here, let's see here. Let's finish in some of this stuff. I want these colors to start making sense together. This curb over here is just kind of a, I wasn't sure it was a curb first, but now I see that it is. It goes all the way along here, kind of the side of the building dash curb. There's some of that green again. I missed it. Look at that. It's like, no, it's not. It's the shine. It's a shine. That's what it is. It's a shine from some of the stuff above. So interesting things, how the stuff that you sort of see, even though we don't know, like I said, like exactly what these different things are, the general placement of some of these indistinct lines, you start to realize, oh, that's probably, like here, this is probably the shadow underneath an awning or a lip of a building right there. And getting these straight lines across, that's really important with perspective, right? So that the building here that's facing us, these straight lines coming across, getting the perspective lines originating at a certain area, coming out at us and going out up at us as it comes towards us. That tells our story. So good. Love it. I love it so much. Let's see here. So I've got it's kind of a dark area. Maybe there's a box of some kind on the street. Maybe it's a news box, or maybe it's a trash can again, or hard to say, but I like it. We want that perspective that there's a lot going on this street, but it's indistinct nonetheless. So little brushes and blocks of color help to tell it. Let's fill in some of that. I think this is so interesting how these shines work down here. So my tree, you know, as I go along, I discover things like, oh, that tree looks like it's kind of in the wrong or slightly wrong place. But again, you're just going with it. What does the tree do on a wet street? So if my tree's here and it's in the wrong place, it doesn't matter. You're just going to go with it where it is. Because since, like I said, since this is all blurry, nobody really knows if you got that right or didn't. It could be absolutely in that place. This music is making me feel triumphant. Aha! And shouldn't our music always make us feel triumphant? I like having music playing, as you can tell, when I'm painting, because it helps me relax. I mean, when I'm talking to you, I'm not quite as relaxed as I normally am when I'm painting, but it's still pretty relaxing, actually. This stream of consciousness stuff, I'll have to say, it's kind of fun. I'm having a pretty good time with it. I think my tree is a little thicker. I want it to be a little thicker. Oh, it's getting really exciting how it's looking. I am so taken with these colors and shapes all bumping off of each other. It's so good. Now there's very few things in here that are white, so we want to make sure that we're filling in somehow, oops, filling in the areas that appear to be white. We're filling them in with color because we want the eye, in our final photo here, we want our eye to be drawn to this picture, the lightest parts and the lights coming up this way. We want into the people. That's the focus. That's our focus of our picture in the end. Now, what am I doing? Do I have green? Why do I have green? Forget what I put on my brush. I'm trying to decide whether to put in the sign or not. I think it's just going to be confusing, so I'm going to leave it out. So what would the building possibly look like behind the sign? You know what? It'd probably be a continuation of some of these areas in here that are this dark area in all likelihood is some kind of grand door. So if I continue in a way that makes it sort of a believable areas of darkness and lightness and maybe windows and that kind of thing, then I'm probably on the right track there. I wonder if they have lights shining up on this building. I bet they do. It's cool. It's a cool building. I feel like there's a little reflection there, just barely. Cool. And then some, like I said, let's fill in these areas of that we don't want to leave white, because we want this white here to take the attention. Okay, man, that's looking super neat. All right, now we're getting into some of this fun stuff. Boy. I'm not sure what's going on back here, but again, remember, we're just filling in believable areas of color. Because nobody can see that anyway. Nobody can tell what's happening there, least of all us, because the thing is blurry. So we don't have to explain to the viewer what that is. It just has to look like it's something that kind of belongs in a city, kind of belongs there. And there's so many things that would be like that. Here's something I want to get though. Let me show you. Okay, so I have this awning. We just barely have some lines on here, but they radiate out. And what's happening here, I believe, is the underneath of this awning is capturing some lightness from the street. And if we put a little bit of that in, I think it's going to be really cool. Even though it's such a little detail, little imperfect detail. Okay, I want to get into some of that building, which has a more brown and red. Cool. There's some really great lights to darks, mid-range colors in here. How one building turns into another building, we're not sure, but there's some neat colors being called out. Right on the edges, building up here, you can see our red. Oops. And leading to there. And then it goes a little darker. And over here, there's some kind of great awning coming out. Sort of a darkish line up to the building here. Wow, right? Fun. This is good fun. I hope that what you're seeing and getting out of this is that by being sloppy, kind of imperfect, by squinting, by making things blurry, you could be making them so much better than if you had tried to make them perfect in some way. Look at that look at that yellow, just this little touch of yellow catching light from the street. This is probably the underside catching light, underside of something, edge of a building of something, catching some light there. My angle is slightly off. Oops. Orange my brush. That's okay, because I just wet it and pick it right up. And I see I have left a little spot here. Fill that in. I'm going to redefine the line of my awning, which seems to be just kind of a key thing here. Kind of even though it ends up just sort of fading into the tree, it just seems like it's important. There's some dark stuff going on here. I'm not sure what that is, but it's something in the distance. Something cool in the distance. Things becoming other things. I am just deeply falling in love with this. I'm so glad I chose this picture. I just thought, this is, boy. Okay, so this is dry down here. Remember, I was picking up my yellow before when I tried to get this light. I'm going to try to get this shape in here now, and let it dry while I'm messing around, because then I'm going to be able to put my people in, and it's going to be super awesome. I'm going to try to figure out where this is happening up here. Now my lightness, it will follow the shadow line of this person's feet as the shadow comes down. So it just kind of radiates out, turns into that gorgeous, super light yellow going towards this wall here, and then up the wall a little bit. An edge of part of the building that's catching some of that. Kind of have that in the wrong place, so I'm gonna make this up. The white that I have is a little bit further over, I think, than it is in actuality. So I'm gonna make another one. I'll say there's something else going on there. Just what we're doing is just filling. We need to fill these areas up with something that kind of has some semblance of believability of what could possibly be happening, but nobody's sure if it's really happening. Just such an interesting thing with this awning. Trying to differentiate the background here from possibly the awning. I'm not going to work too hard at that. It's not so important. Now, I think the reason that this is catching me is because this path here, I realize these are the street lights as they fade into the back. So now that I didn't realize that when I first started putting those shapes in, but now that I do realize that gives me more of a sense of what could be happening here, how I need to try to make this appear. Okay, so if those lights are going in this sort of trajectory, and then they're going to just above the awning here, those guys are kind of right there. And then those other lights, remember that I was having trouble placing earlier, is the light pole, which would go sort of in the middle of those. Cool. Got a little bit of dark paint I don't want to pick up there, so I wiped a little bit of it off. Those are just so cute. They're light towards these lights. It's really interesting. They're light towards the middle. And then they're going to be oranger towards the edge. My paint is a little bit wet there still, the darker paint I mean. So I won't handle that too much yet. But I'm going to try to get a, sort of a lightness around that edge. Or I mean an orange around the sort of a white to yellow center. All right, how are we doing filling in? It's coming together. Oops. Nice. There's just some great spots in here, aren't there? Everything's an opportunity. Now this is cool too. So there's street lights on the other side of the street. And they are just barely there. These are the closest ones. And the lights are parallel to each other. The lights aren't going to angle like this. They're going to stay straight to the horizon as they go back. Does that make sense? It's a little thing, but that also will help to reinforce our perspective. And they're going back at that kind of angle, so I just want to make sure if I suggest that they're there, I want to suggest them at that kind of angle. Wow, that's cool. I didn't even see those lights right off the bat. Okay. Back to this little guy. Let's try to get some lighter color in there. Still wet. Okay, I'm not going to fool with that too much. Now, down here, we need to get this background in so we can put our people in. And I see some of my pencil lines are still in there, and that's not gonna fly. So, what is this background? Imagine the people aren't there, and then let's complete this. What is happening here? There's a sidewalk, obviously, that's going kind of in that direction. There's a little bit of more shine on these trees than I thought there was. Orangish reflection. It's nice. It really helps to call it out. Maybe it's the building behind slightly. Maybe it's just a little bit of reflection from over here because this is so bright. All right, I got sidetracked. Now let's finish up this background because it's got to be in place before we put our people in. I got to cover up those pencil lines. Nobody wants to see that. Love it. Love it. There's a really strong orange that kind of going to be coming off of the shadow of these two people. I think it's so interesting. Oops. I want to get in these orange and yellow colors before I go in with the dark. Try to get them kind of the way I want them a little bit. Kind of the right hue. How that fades into the white there. Because it's just so lovely and bright white. That's going to be that and these street light, the white in these street lights is going to be really important. There, it's finally drying a little. We'll get that white in there, and then it's going to glow out from there into the darkness behind it. Still see my pencil lines a little bit. It's gone. These lighter colors, they don't cover up the lines as well. There's going to be a little bit of orange around my, kind of in between the two people, and I want to kind of grab that. That'll help me get rid of my horizon lines too. Okay. Well, I think we're almost to that place where we're about ready to get our people in. I'm excited. setting a stage here. This is my shadow. It's going to go from these two people. Their feet are going to, I'm going to just mark a little dot. Them in about right there. First the shadow isn't as much, and then it gets much bolder towards the bottom. Nice. Okay, and then these shadows, let's kind of get that sense of what's happening with those guys there. The tree kind of comes down a little bit, but then there's a shine going across this way. And then the shadow starts up again. The shadows are just such an important part of this, I think. And they're just they're a suggestion, right? I can still see my lines. It's making me crazy. That bright yellow shining off here. So beautiful. Just the suggestion of this the shine on this overhang. It's just really, really good. We need to make this glow a little bit. Beautiful. And then these guys here, we were saying that, oops, it's too full of paint. That these guys here are kind of a continuation of our lamps fading into the distance. So I just want to kind of make sure that sort of appears that way. One kind of coming out, blowing out from that. I think they're showing a reflection on there. All right. Okay, I think it might be time to go to the people. This is gonna make it. I'm so excited. Making sure my tree is dark there. Just the closer it is to you, the more distinct it is. So I just want to make sure my black in these trees is very distinct. And then I'm gonna put some lights on the trees as well. Maybe not as many lights as are there, but that's going to be really cool. Okay, so I marked kind of the bottom of where the feet are for this person. And this is a very imperfect, they are very wiggly, the people. But this is why I wanted you to have a smaller brush, because you want to make sure you get the light spot between this person's legs. It doesn't seem like it's going to be that hard, that big of a deal, but it's a huge deal. It really will show that this is a person. I think I made my person a little bit small, so I'm going to get them a little bit bigger. They've kind of got a big jacket on. All right, now let's get our other figure in here. I'm going to get my even smaller brush and script liner, because her legs are so thin in this picture that I don't want them to accidentally grow together. think this character potentially is carrying something. That might be part of the shape of her. And I'm saying her because it definitely looks like she's got a dress on. And I just realized my shadows are in the wrong place for what I thought I was doing. So, but that's okay because I'm just going to change them. This one is pretty. But her shadow really needs to originate right there. And there, I'm going to catch this sort of shine that's going through these things. I feel like there needs to be something else going on up here. I think I think my positioning was off for some of these things, but that's okay because it's gonna fill in with some other shapes and lines. Now I know in the original picture there were actually some people behind here, and so putting in some sort of suggestions of that I think is going to be helpful. They're not very distinct though. But as things fade away, I think that's kind of helpful to have suggestions of things going on there. Fuzzier. Pretty. So glowy orange around these shadow bits really works, really helps to tell it. Okay, I'm going to step back from it, or I'm going to pull back from it and look, because when you're right at the end here, you're almost there, you like almost have it, you'll be able to see what doesn't, if something isn't making sense, you'll be able to sort of see what that is. Right there, the white was not being quite believable. That's better. Because that white has to be stark in that area in order to work. And then I noticed that since I know that the two most important parts as far as white goes are right around this person and then right over on these lamp posts. Yellow in there too, because it goes white to orange, which is just about it, but I need just a tad of that little glowy yellow in there. White to glowy yellow to orange. That's it. That's the kicker. That was a tad. The lights on the other side. Isn't that just so beautiful? This needs a little bit of glow to it. If that's a light, I'm going to say that that's a light. Okay, now that really looks cool. That really looks cool. I need some stuff on the tree though. I need some lights on the tree. And as it turns out, those lights are not completely white. The tree is very dark and black, and I like that. So these lights are kind of pinkish, purplish. And they're kind of wrapped around the tree. Down at the bottom, they get a little blendy. That might be because I fuzzed it out, and then I took some of the fuzz out of that. So I'm just gonna make some dots, kind of just assuming. Now, as you get closer to you, oh, I didn't finish that sentence. So you're kind of assuming that there's bundles of lights in there. That's what I'm gonna go with that assumption. And I'm gonna just put, oh, this is a lamppost. Just a little glow on the lamppost. As you get closer to you, the lights, the little circles are slightly bigger. And slightly lighter, just slightly. It's so pretty. That really makes it look like Christmas, doesn't it? And then the closest tree to us that has this little edge over here, these are going to be a little bit lighter still. Not fully white, but a little bit lighter and a little bigger. And I'm not being too careful about making my lights perfectly round because they're glowing, so they cast an imperfect glow out into the world. Since they're wrapped around the tree, I'm bringing the edge of the light out beyond the tree a little bit there. So pretty. So fun. This is honestly, this is turning out even better than I thought it would, and I thought it would turn out pretty good. Now I just need to get it down to an hour. Oh well. Those darker again because they're a little further away. This is just great. Oh, I hope you have been enjoying this. And even when you stop painting, if you want, you can always come back to your painting and say, I see something. I'm going to put a little bit more time into this and I'm gonna get that. I'm gonna get that thing just the way I like it. I do that a lot. A lot. All right, take another step back from your painting. Is there anything that your eye is drawn to that bothers you? Those are usually the things that they just need a little handling. Don't overdo it, because this is great. That, you know, what you've got going on here, it's really neat. Look at here, up here. This is so interesting. This blue, the blue sky is reflecting on the building. Oh, and I wanted to add, there were a couple of cute chimneys or something, or parts of buildings over here in the distance. Love it. Okay, I think we've got it here. Now, you will have to tell me in the comments, is this the kind of painting you think you could do? How do you feel about it? If you're not liking your result, maybe it just needs a little, you need to step away and then come back and then take another stab at looking at an area. But the biggest mistake you can make, take it from me, is overworking. Because when you've got a sketchy thing going on like this, a blurry, sketchy thing, you don't want it to be, you don't want to lose that quality to it, that overall blubby, that sketchy quality. Okay? Good job. Thank you for coming to this. Thank you for watching. And please, if you have found this valuable, subscribe to my channel. I just want to help as many people as possible. I want us to talk about art. I want us to talk about relaxation through art. And I want us to find things to concentrate on that are genuinely good for our soul. So thank you for coming to this today. And I so appreciate you. And I will see you next time.